Hi, it's Casey, and today we'll be talking about the political aspects of energy in a hopefully short and non-stuttering video. So the first is our vocab terms: export, energy independence, and fossil fuels. And if you haven't already gotten that in your digital notebook, pause the video and take time to write it down now. So in our energy sources, the most available energy sources, you have the renewables and non-renewables. Now, non-renewables like natural gas, coal, oil, and propane are all fossil fuels, and nuclear is non-renewable because it is using not propane. It's using uranium that has been mined from underground, which takes millions of years to form, as well as the fossil fuels. And your renewables are your biomass, your solar, your wind, and your hydro. Biomass, if you don't already know, is when you grow something like corn and you take out the alcohol and burn the alcohol. Solar is from the sun, wind is from the wind, and hydro is when you use gravity from water falling in a waterfall. So, the problems with all of these energy sources is natural gas, coal, oil, and propane obviously are fossil fuels, and they will contribute to global warming. Um, Nuclear is nuclear, and it's very dangerous, and that's why nobody likes to use it. That's why we don't have any nuclear plants in California, is because everybody's scared of them. Everyone's scared of a nuclear meltdown. And the problem with the renewables are they're just not efficient. Biomass is basically the same thing as natural gas because you can grind it down to the point where it can be a gas or a liquid, but you just need to grow so much biomass in such a little small area that there's no space for the plants to be grown, so it's inefficient. And solar and wind, both it's basically the same story. It's just unable to get as much energy as from natural gas, coal, and oil because they're so energy dense, and solar and wind are not. And the problem with hydro is it's the most, arguably, the most environmentally unstable energy source because it blocks an entire river up and it makes basically a drought happen beneath the river. So, environmental lobbying is a very big topic within politics, and it's basically environmentalists who are trying to fix the environmental problems on a political scale. This is by regulations for fossil fueled and biomass companies and subsidizing means to put money into and fund renewable sources like wind and hydro and solar. But the problem is that would be great if we could, but the problem is it's just not efficient with the current alternatives. Wind just doesn't match up to natural gas. It just can't. Neither can solar and neither can hydro. So the thing about the economy is, just like I said, wind and solar just don't match up. So our power grid that powers the entire country right now is 2/3 coal and natural gas. So if we tried to take out those alternatives, we would lose all the power because we couldn't power enough energy. We couldn't get enough energy out of wind and solar like we can from natural gas and coal. So just a small little minute here. I bet you've heard that we're in the Middle East for oil, to control the oil market. Well, I'm here to tell you we're not, because I have this little chart here just to prove it. So right now we have $5 trillion worth in fighting over in the Middle East. And it's just too much money to profit off of. We could never get that much money back. And also, if we were manipulating the markets over there, as you can see, around 2008, right around here, there was an increase right after we pulled the troops out in the price of oil. That's what the oil companies want, because then they can sell the oil for a lot and get a lot of money. But once there was a power vacuum because we left and there was problems and we had to put our troops back, the price declined dramatically. So we couldn't be manipulating these markets, because if we were, then we would just want the price to go up and we would pull out of Iraq again so that the price could go up. But that's not in our interest. Our interest is peace. So what I have here is a map of the air pollution on a global scale. So the worst pollution in the world is in this little belt of Africa, India, the Middle East, and China. So China is the biggest um, creator or miner of coal in the world by far. It tops the next second down Australia by almost 4 times over, but Australia is the biggest exporter. So because Australia exports more, it doesn't burn the coal that it has. So it has a relatively clean environment above it. But China burns almost all of its coal. And as you can see, its air pollution reflects that. So the rest of the countries to the west of it are all third world countries. So the problem with third world countries are they're poor. And the poor are not our problem. What I mean by that is they're not the problem to the world. It's just that the poor have problems. The poor here are unable to get clean and alternative energy sources, so they have to rely on wood and coal and other cheap sources that will get them all the energy that they need. So in turn, because of this cheap energy, they have to resort to the cheap bad energy and therefore getting the worst air pollution in the world. So on the world stage, the power resides in usually the countries with the biggest economy. So the energy market is extremely lucrative. So the countries with the best energy sources are usually the most wealthy. And now that the United States has Saudi Arabia's worth of natural gas, we're starting to become even more of a superpower than we already were. But the problem is we're not exporting our natural gas to these third world countries that desperately need it. What we need to do is make sure that all of these countries get some clean, well, relatively clean energy that's efficient, and it will get us out of this air pollution crisis that we're in right now.